It was 1971, and one of those precious father and son trips to the local cinema to see this little epic. On the way home, Dad dropped the bombshell. Of course, you know that an ancestor fought at Waterloo. He was a volunteer. But my elder didn't know more, and there the matter rested for a while. "8 years later, relatives in the USA supplied an actual photograph of this ordinary enlisted man in much later life, as well as an exact name, John Jeremiah Morgan. The photograph was soon followed by this colorized version. These images triggered the research that followed. In those pre-internet days, documentary research meant a lot of trudge, sweat and tears, in this case to Somerset House for the death certificate and to the National Archives, both in London. But it all uncovered a real survivor who had somehow lived 94 arduous years in Georgian and Victorian Britain. He eventually died at this not so grand but quite pleasant ancestral home in Monmouthshire in 1887. Hunting for a John Morgan through umpteen battalion muster rolls in the National Archives drew a depressing blank, but it eventually became clear that the Morgan was a later addition of his mother's maiden name. Private John Jeremiah's service record was found and proved revelatory. Most interestingly, he was part of a large contingent of local militia who volunteered en masse into the regulars, the 23rd Foot or Royal Welch Fusiliers. The 5 shillings bounty must have helped, but there's also a suggestion that these militiamen were being threatened with deployment to garrison duty in Ireland. Evidently this made joining the regulars seem a more attractive proposition. Sensibly though, Jeremiah only signed up for the 7-year short enlistment. Though sent to Spain in 1813, his closest contact with the enemy then was escort duty for thousands of French prisoners transported back to England following the Allied storm of the fortress of San Sebastian. The full-dress uniform of the Welsh Fusiliers was pretty swanky. Note the blue facings of a Royal Regiment, the elite epaulettes, and a tall Fusilier cap, even before the Foot Guards acquired their own bearskins. Field dress, as used at Waterloo, was of course more practical. Evidently the regiment looked and acted the part on their arrival in Belgium in 1815. Remarkably, these gushing plaudits came from the very top. Lowry Cole was one of Wellington's most experienced Peninsular commanders and had apparently asked for the 23rd to join his own division. The 23rd had seen a lot of action in Spain and latterly in Canada, and so comprised very experienced officers and NCOs, fleshed out with numerous young replacements as junior ensigns and private soldiers. As usual for the time, the national origins of most men bore only tenuous links with their regiment's county affiliation. At Waterloo, the regiment moved into the front line at mid-afternoon and repulsed multiple attacks by the massed French cavalry. Their accounts mention assaults by cuirassiers, guard chasseurs and horse grenadiers. Their dead included their colonel, Henry Ellis, shot from his horse within the square by a carbine or pistol shot. Overall, their casualties were significant, though other regiments had suffered much worse. The Royal Welsh were prominent in the rest of their campaign, storming the gates to the French border town of Cambrai on the 25th of June. Then, after the armistice, they were selected alongside the Brigade of Guards to garrison Paris itself. These duties demanded some tact and discipline, but they clearly enjoyed their encampment in the Bois de Boulogne. John Jeremiah came to the end of his service in 1820 without an automatic pension entitlement, but remarkably a special pension eventually arrived in 1868, recognising his physical impairment in the service. Better late than never. John became something of a local media celebrity in his final years. His funeral in 1887 was attended by local volunteer contingents and hundreds of local people. He now rests somewhere in the derelict grounds of St. Thomas's Church in Gwent, but there is no known headstone. Or is it the end of the story? John is believed to be the cousin of Private Thomas Jeremiah, one of the few private soldiers to leave us a detailed account of his service in 1815. His memoir is edited by Gareth Glover. In fact, the local newspaper refers to 3 first cousins from the little hamlet of Goitre, who also survived the fight on the 18th of June. Have we found the working class Napier family? The pursuit never quite ends.